The 2024 US presidential election may be more than a year away, but the race is already hotting up. And other than Donald Trump, the Republican frontrunner for the post, if there is one candidate who has grabbed headlines at regular intervals in recent days, it is Indian-American Republican presidential hopeful Vivek Ramaswamy. The 38-year-old multi-millionaire biotech entrepreneur, who some say is the most Trump-like candidate in the fray, other than Trump himself of course, has offered his own unique solution to America's growing China problem. To address the growing challenge posed by China, it is important not to let Russia fall into Beijing's lap, says Ramaswamy, asserting that if elected as the US president, he would achieve this goal by offering a deal to Moscow. Vivek Ramaswamy told Fox News that as a US president, he would offer to freeze the current lines of control between Ukraine and Russia, make a hard commitment that NATO will not admit Ukraine into its fold, and lift sanctions on Moscow. In return, he said, Russia would have to exit its military alliance with China. Let me quote Ramaswamy. He told the network, "Very clear vision. I would do a deal that Putin would say yes to, but that actually advances American interests so that the United States wins. Here's what I would do. I would freeze the current lines of control. I would further make a hard commitment that NATO will not admit Ukraine as a member. That's enough to get Putin to do the deal, but I will require something even greater in return. Russia has to exit its military alliances with China. Right now, we are pushing Russia further into China's hands. The Russia-China military alliance is the single greatest threat to the United States today. And so just as Nixon did it in 1972, I'll do it in reverse. Pull Russia apart from China. And by the way, get Russia to also remove its military presence in the Western Hemisphere. Get out of the Western Hemisphere, reopen economic ties with Russia. That's how we do it," he said. The Indian-American presidential aspirant said the reason why China is more valuable today is because the US has wrongfully cut off Russia from the West by bombing the Nord Stream 1 and 2 pipelines and also sanctioning Russia. He says, so if we can reopen Western economic ties with it, Russia has less of a reason to be in partnership with China. There are also cracks in the armor of that relationship if you look closely, he says. Russia actually sent weapons to India and Vietnam, both of which border China. They're sending a signal that China wants to build a railroad in northeast China to get to the ocean. Russia will not let that happen. So there are clearly cracks in that armor, he says. And guess who's been heaping praise on Vivek Ramaswamy? None other than his Republican rival, Donald Trump. The former US president recently said Ramaswamy would make a very good vice president. During an interview, Trump said Vivek Ramaswamy is a very, very, very intelligent person. He's got good energy and he could be some form of something. I tell you, I think he'd be very good. That's what Trump said when asked if he had considered the 38-year-old for vice president. These remarks came just a week after the first Republican debate, which Trump did not participate in, but promised to watch for potential vice presidential picks. Vivek Ramaswamy was the top draw at the event, where 8 Republican candidates vying to contest the US presidential elections debated in Milwaukee, Wisconsin on why the party should pick them. The Indian-American entrepreneur garnered a lot of attention, particularly for his comments on the Ukraine war, Donald Trump and climate change. Asked to comment on Ramaswamy's performance after the debate, Trump said he did very well and that he especially liked it when Ramaswamy named him, that is Trump, the greatest president of the 21st century. Ramaswamy, a second-generation Indian-American, founded Revon Sciences in 2014 and led the largest biotech IPOs of 2015 and 2016. He's been moving up the charts over the past few weeks, elbowing other presidential aspirants in his party. Opinion polls show Ramaswamy is currently ranked 3rd after Trump and Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. He's been asked repeatedly if he would consider serving as Trump's running mate, but has largely brushed off the idea. Interestingly, this was his response. He said, and I quote, "I think Trump and I share something in common, which is that neither of us make a very good number 2. He added that he had fresh legs and was almost half Trump's age and would ask him to serve as his most valued advisor in the White House. All right, this is a truly fascinating story at so many levels. Let's go back to Shri to understand it better. Shri, I have to say that Vivek Ramaswamy has emerged as a very intriguing character. in the Republican race for the White House. What do you make of the series of statements he's made, both in that Republican debate and in television interviews? Of course, if somebody called me the best news anchor of the 21st century, even I would love them. So it's not surprising that Trump is heaping praise on Vivek Ramaswamy. But do you really see him emerging eventually as Trump's running mate? Is that a real possibility now? Of course, Vivek Ramaswamy says, forget about it. I'd make a terrible number 2.
So the first thing to recognize about Vivek Ramaswamy, Neha, is the fact that he's extremely brilliant and he's extremely articulate. In fact, anyone who'd watched the Convention debate that happened a few days ago could tell that despite being a complete newbie, a rank outsider to politics, the way he managed to hold his own position and take on some seasoned politicians was really commendable. And that was a time when he got a slight bump up in terms of the polls as well. But that said, I think as far as Mr. Ramaswamy's foreign policy approach and his thoughts on foreign policy are concerned, now they are being seen by some critics as being slightly naive. In fact, Nikki Haley at the same debate, said that this is an evidence of your inexperience, of political inexperience. So basically, Vivek Ramaswamy's vision for America in the foreign policy that he envisions is pretty much America looking within its own borders. Getting America out of Europe as the protector and the peacekeeper in the region, from the Middle East, and then recalibrating and creating regional, kind of powers. So when he talks about creating, getting Russia to move away from China rather than China from Russia, so he's talking about creating a counterbalance to Russia as well, so that it's instead of being a unipolar war where US is the supreme power, you have multiple powers, including Russia and China and India. So, but the fact remains that as the reality is, US is by far the biggest economy, and it cannot abdicate its position, which comes with that sense of authority, the size that it carries. Like they say, to whom much is given, much is expected. So that is a role which US wants to fulfill. Now, coming to the question of how realistic is the possibility of Vivek Ramaswamy becoming Trump's vice president, I think, to my mind, at this point, I think it's fairly limited. Let me explain why. Number one, Vivek Ramaswamy represents a diaspora group, which is just 1% of the population, voting population in the US, the Indian Americans, although they're disproportionately powerful, influential, rich, everything. But from a political calculus, Ramaswamy may not deliver what a winning ticket would need to from Trump's perspective. He's not a woman, first of all. And second, the diaspora he represents is fairly small. Now, Ramaswamy has also said that he does not see himself as being number 2, which might be the case because I don't think that may really get offered to him. But like Trump himself said, he deserves some sort of a position. And I'm pretty certain if Trump comes to power, there will be some room for Ramaswamy in some fashion. And I would not be surprised if Mr. Ramaswamy decides to take the position. And I think something significant will be given to him, if not as the role of a vice president. So I think it's fair to say at this point, Neha, that I do see Mr. Ramaswamy getting some significant role under Trump administration if it comes to power, rather than as being a vice president. So which is probably also the reason why, Neha, Mr. Ramaswamy has also heaped praise on Mr. Trump, called him the best president that the US has ever had. And he's been very, very cautious of criticizing Mr. Trump, even on the Republican policies, although he's gone after a whole bunch of Republican former presidents and also the aspirants this time. So he's playing his cards very, very carefully. And I think at the end of it, if Republicans are put to power in the US, he may emerge as a significant political leader, a rank outsider, but someone who's given something significant in terms of the US government, Neha.
That's fascinating. Ramaswamy says he wants to appoint Trump as his most valued advisor in the White House. I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon, but you're saying it could very well be the other way around. We will watch this space for more.